Language changes. The words used to describe disability 50 years ago are not the words we use today. Some of those terms are now considered offensive. At the time, they were ordinary, even institutional. In this video, I'm going to examine how language shifts and how power decides when it shifts. This isn't about defending insults. It's about understanding the difference between words, intent, and control. If we can't examine language honestly, we can't have an honest conversation about free speech. So let's begin carefully. In the 1970s, I attended what was then associated with the Spastic Society, now known as SCOPE. The institution itself changed its name as Language Evolved. At the time, the school was commonly referred to as a spasticity school. That was the accepted terminology. Today, that word is unacceptable in public discourse. But the children didn't change. The bodies didn't change. Only the language did. And that's where this conversation really begins. Why words are just words. Until we refuse to listen, I went to what was once called a spastic school. That word now makes people wince. It's been scrubbed from policy, education, and polite speech. But the children didn't change. The bodies didn't change. Only the language did, which tells us something important before we even begin. Words are not stable moral objects. They move with time, power, and fashion. Treating them as inherently dangerous is historically illiterate. If you call me a cripple, that is your choice. I don't care. If the word wounds you, that tells you something about your relationship to it, not mine. Insults, systems, and misplaced protection. People sometimes comment on my videos with words now classified as slurs. Platforms remove them automatically. This is supposed to be protection. It isn't. It doesn't protect me. It protects the system from complexity. By deleting the word, the platform assumes harm is automatic, context-free, and universal. It ignores resilience, self-definition, intent, and power. Language is treated as a toxin rather than a tool. That approach feels morale, but it is intellectually lazy. Threats, credibility, and reality. Some messages escalate into threats. I will kill you if you don't send money. These don't frighten me because fear requires credibility. A threat without capacity is noise. If someone were genuinely going to kill me, it wouldn't arrive as a badly written message demanding payment. Call this fatalism if you want. I call it distinguishing reality from performance. The same applies to people who claim they can destroy my platform presence. I understand systems well enough to know when someone has power and when they're pretending. Where words do matter, agency. There is, however, a line, and it matters that we draw it properly. I have no problem with gay people. I am a heterosexual man. What people do in their private lives is none of my concern. But some people decide my sexuality for me. One man repeatedly sent me nude photos of himself, assuming I wouldn't or couldn't refuse. That assumption, not the nudity, not the sexuality, was the problem. That is not speech as expression. That is speech as attempted control. Blocking him was not fragility. It was agency, desire, manipulation, and refusal. The same logic appears elsewhere. Some OnlyFans creators insist that if you won't view their content, you must be asexual, repressed, or not real. This isn't identity politics, it's manipulation. Desire does not impose obligation. Refusal is not pathology. Identity assigned by someone else's commercial interest is not identity at all. Again, the issue is not offense. It's pressure disguised as moral judgment. When speech unexpectedly matters, the middle. This brings me to something that surprised me. When Jimmy Kimmel was taken off air after criticizing how the president spoke about the murder of Charlie Kirk, the situation was wrong on several levels. Removing a comedian for political speech is an obvious free speech failure. What surprised me was what happened next. When Kimmel returned, he did not acknowledge that Ted Cruz, a right-wing Republican, publicly defended his right to speak, nor did he reflect on Charlie Kirk's widow, who spoke about love over hate. That was a missed moment, not a moral failure, but a human one, because something rare had happened. People on opposing sides agreed on a principle. free speech, restraint, humanity, and instead of pausing there, instead of saying this matters more than our differences, the moment passed. The real cost of speech, absolutism, and speech management. We talk endlessly about free speech versus harm, but we rarely talk about the cost of refusing to engage when agreement appears in the middle. Words become dangerous not because they offend, but because they replace listening. When everything is framed as enemy speech, there is no incentive to recognize good faith across divides. Speech stops being communication and becomes tribal signaling. That is far more corrosive than insults, a simpler, harder position. Maybe we should take words as just words, not because they never matter, but because people matter more. Speech should not be regulated to protect feelings. It should be constrained only when it removes agency, safety, or choice. And when people who disagree politically, culturally, or morally agree on something fundamental, that moment should be honored, not ignored, because those moments are rare, fragile, and necessary. Words will always change. Power will always try to manage them. What decides the future is whether people in the middle are still willing to listen when they briefly stand on the same ground. You might be wondering why this video is an AI avatar of me, Kevin James French. The simple answer is access. I have a severe speech impairment. My thoughts move faster than my voice. So I use AI speech and an avatar to carry my words. Not to replace me, to reveal me. I don't start with perfect scripts. I start with thoughts, fragments, questions, instincts. I write in drafts, then drafts of drafts. Because I'm not trying to sound clever. I'm trying to say what I actually mean. ChatGPT doesn't give me opinions. It doesn't tell me what to think. It helps me refine. I bring the ideas, the memories, the politics, the emotion. Together, we shape the language. Every line in this video is my perspective, my argument, my responsibility. This isn't automation, it's access, it's collaboration, and it lets me do what I've always done. Think out loud, build ideas, and share them with you. Hey everyone, it's Kevin James French. If you enjoy my music or my videos and want to support my work, you can now do it directly through Buy Me a Coffee. Every dollar, pound, euro, yen, rupee, any currency, any amount, helps me keep creating. It funds more music, more videos, more ideas, more freedom. Even the smallest support means the world to me. If you'd like to help me grow, here's the link. buymeacoffee.com/KTHSQ42RCT. Thank you. Love, Kevin. Ever watched a video and thought, should I comment or not? Let me make it easy. I'm Kevin James French. I make EDM tracks, AI videos, and a lot of creative stuff you won't find anywhere else. Some people don't comment because they're not sure what to say, or they think my disability means I won't reply. Truth is, I read every single comment. Ask me a question about the track, AI, music, or anything you're curious about. I reply to as many as I can. If you enjoy this, hit subscribe, drop a like, and let's start a real conversation in the comments.